You will find, no doubt, that if you haven't taken notes, don't worry, you'll be able to get copies of the DVDs. Preferential price, obviously. Right, did it make sense yesterday, what we were talking about?
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Hopefully by the end of today it'll make even more sense. As I recall, hopefully, as long as I didn't go off on one too much, we got to the point of using media publicity as the way of getting people to either ring up for your information pack or to go to your web page, which is basically the same thing, sales letter, to end up buying your product. Media publicity will perhaps come back to later. There is another way of getting people to buy your product, and that next one is a conventional sales letter. Now, again, we were talking about niche markets. Your sales letter, it doesn't matter whether it's a website sales letter, a printed sales letter or whatever. We use all the same rules we talked about yesterday. Attention, interest, desire, action. The example I gave yesterday, which I just made up at the time, Ninja Death Secrets, seems to have started World War III. There's two people in the room think they bought NinjaDeathSecrets.com and neither of them know yet which one's going to be successful, so there you go. These things happen. That's just to warn the rest of you not to bother trying, because somebody's already snatched it up. But with sales letters, obviously you're using, all the other approaches as well. If they reply to your classified ad, it's on your website or being sent out. If they reply to the media publicity, if they reply to the news group even, they might be looking at it on the website. But there is another approach, and yeah, I have put the website address up there, and that is to literally find the people, your niche market, and rather than putting an advert in their magazine, Death Killer Monthly or whatever, rather than just getting targeted media publicity, a review of your product or whatever, which we'll talk about a little bit later on today, it's to actually get the names and addresses, the contact details of these people, whatever that particular niche market is. And the easiest way of doing that, unfortunately, involves spending some money. That's why we've put it down the list a bit, so you can start making money in the ways we spoke about yesterday for free. It's to buy a targeted mailing list. And one of the companies, you can just put mailing list in as your search term in the internet and UK, and you'll find loads of bloody companies. Or if you were going to be really prepared to put your neck on the line, you book mailing list and whatever bloody country you want to mail shot to. Obviously, again, it's like everything we did yesterday, a bit of common sense, and it's not rocket science. But it's got to be a targeted mailing list. Now, by targeted, I mean there's certain things you want to know. And a good example of this is if you go to a website, Elite DMS, which is spelled H for Harry, I for Indigo, L for Lager, I for Indigo, TEDMS.co.uk. There's numerous other sites you'll find just doing a Google search for mailing lists, but this one is a good example of the kind of information you can get before buying your mailing list in terms of whatever your product is. For example, on this particular site, lots of the others do it as well, it will tell you how many there are people that have actually bought that type of item before. So going back to the self-defense or Ninja Death Secrets course package example that we used yesterday, it will tell you that they may have names and addresses of 50,000 people who bought self-defense products, DVDs, books, manuals or whatever. So there's a potential 50,000 people, and the key here is people that have actually parted with money, buyers. You don't want a mailing list of inquirers, because there's lots of companies out there that just put little ads in newspapers saying send for free information pack to get people to ring up, leave their name and address, which means then they can be put on the mailing list, and they sell your mailing list of inquirers. Well, these people have never actually parted with money. So the chances are they're not going to part with money for your product either, so you're going to be sending stuff out willy-nilly and getting no response. So they want to be buyers. It'll tell you how they've been collected. Was this through mail order advertising, internet, or whatever? That's not too particularly bothersome, just so long as they have actually bought stuff. It'll give you demographics like what their income bracket is, within reason, i.e. where they live, what the general income is, which is relevant, obviously, if you were putting together some sort of 10 DVD set that was going to sell for £1,000, it's going to be logically somewhat easier to get people who are likely to be able to get their hands on that money to part with it, rather than the people who, demographically speaking on the list, it says their income bracket doesn't really fall into that round. Home addresses, you want, right, some of these lists will tell you that so many of this 50,000, for example, 10,000 of them might be business addresses, 40,000 of them are home addresses. In which case, when it comes to buying the mailing list, I'd say don't bother buying the business address ones, buy the home address ones, because people getting stuff at home are more likely to look at it than if it goes to the place of work. Despite the fact that they're already buyers, you're better off narrowing it down to the people with the highest chance of them parting with cash. It'll tell you how recently these names were collected, i.e. was it a year ago, 2 years ago, a month ago, in the past month. Obviously, the more recently this person purchased something, the more likely they are to part with money again. Because the chances are they may have already bought several things, but all it will show is when they most recently purchased. The longer ago it was that they spent money, the less chance there is, in general. It's not to say it isn't worth mailing them, but when you're buying the names, you can say, oh, I want X amount, 1,000, and we'll start off with the most recent ones. And then when you make money out of that and you reinvest some of it, you work backwards till you've exhausted the list. Okay, you want to make sure you use a mailing list company that will flag the names. And by this I mean if you go to them and they've got 50,000 names for an area, or they might have 250,000 names for a different subject in each market, you want them to flag them. Otherwise you go to them, buy 20,000 names, say, you go back a couple of weeks, a month later or whatever, you buy some more, you could end up getting duplication. If they flag them, what that means is they will keep a record on their database of which names and addresses they've already sold to you, so you don't get the same ones again. It's pure, I mean, again, it's not rocket science. You don't want to be wasting money on sending things out to the same person twice. Obviously, it will tell you what the price is going to be for each of these names. Generally speaking, you're going to pay at least 10 pence per name and address per person for a one-time usage. This means you don't buy a mailing list, you rent it. It means that you can send stuff to these people once only. Some people will be tempted to get greedy and photocopy it and then mail shot again. Tell you now, don't do it. You'll piss the mailing list company off, because what they do is they put some seeds in there, which is names and addresses of their own, so when your information packs go out, a couple of their staff somewhere will receive them. Fine when that happens once, but if it happens again and the system shows you haven't paid, that company ain't ever going to deal with you again. Plus, of course, you're in breach of contract. It'll tell you what the minimum order amount is. That varies from company to company. It'll tell you the sex of the person, whether they're male or female, and that's relevant depending on your product. That's where common sense comes in. Yes, if it was a golf product, there are lots of lady golfers, not being sexist, but in terms of selling something mail order, the majority of the people are going to be men. You're better off starting off with the men, buying those names. In terms of the example we made up yesterday, Ninja Death Secrets, again, I'd be inclined to go for the men first before going for the women, although for some reason it seemed to turn you on. Okay, I'll tell you geographically where they live. The format of the list, initially you'll be getting them, or at least we do, in sticky self-adhesive label format, which you either have the ball ache of them sticking them on yourself onto the front of the envelopes when your packages have been stuffed, or if you do what I do, I used to just give my stepdaughter a nominal backhander. There you go. When you've enveloped all them up, I'll ditch you a bit of money. Because you don't want to be doing the boring bits yourself. That defeats the freedom element of it. And if you've not got kids, I don't know, nick the next door neighbours or something. Right. Yeah, the only other key thing is some of the list owners have certain conditions in terms of if it's actually one of their own lists and they previously sold a self-defence product with that list, they're prepared to sell it to you well, renting you, as it were, but only on the basis that your product is not, shall we say, it's up to them what conditions they attach, but if they previously sold a DVD set, they may only agree to rent you the list if what you're selling is printed literature or audio stuff rather than DVD, or vice versa. Or it might just be that if they were selling a set on, I don't know, tax avoidance, they'd be happy for you to perhaps sell one on saving money in other ways, but not if it was to do with tax. But that's fine as long as what you're selling is closely connected enough to that niche target interest group that it's relevant. That's all you need to worry about. You're going to have to be buying, more likely than not, a minimum of 1,000 names at a time. Generally speaking, the more you buy, the cheaper they become. Again, this is not rocket science. A, it's not really worth their while to be selling you less than that, and B, it's not really in terms of you making money worth your while to get a good idea of whether your sales letter's working to be sending out less than that. We've done mail shots in the past where we sent out a few hundred, got no response whatsoever. We thought, something's not right here. But anyway, we had the others there, we sent out a few more hundred, no response. The last 100 that got sent, practically everybody bought something, which made the profit. But if we'd have sent the 1,000 out together, we wouldn't have spent like best part of a week thinking, going to lose money on this one. We wouldn't have known exactly which 100 that the sales had come out of. But you're not bothered about things like that. All you're bothered about is what money have you put in and what comes out at this end. That's your bottom line. So the more you can get out there, the better. But obviously it comes down to the more you send out, the more it's going to cost, because you've got to have these things printed. One of the printers we use for black and white or semi-colour printing is Cornerstone Print, CORNERSTONE, cornerstoneprint.co.uk. They're about the cheapest we found in terms of paper, mail order sort of sales letters, all printed, collated, stapled, delivered to you. And if you pay them a bit extra, they'll actually stuff them all in envelopes. So when they come to you, they're delivered, ready for just sticking the labels on, or rather for getting your kids to stick the labels on, so that then, and joyfully now, thank God, because you've got a choice with your stamps. Franking machines, an option, maybe at some point, yeah? Okay, and you can pick them up on eBay pretty cheap. But initially, you're not really going to be sending enough to go with the ball ache, and you're probably going to be sending big A4 envelopes, because sales letters, rather than being folded in small ones, best if they're printed as brochures, A4, quite a lot of pages. I'll come to that in a minute, but so that it's not folded, they pull it out, it's big, it's in their face, and gets their attention straight away. So franking machines can be a bit of a ball ache. But thankfully now, they made stamps self-adhesive. So that makes life a hell of a lot easier, because believe me, I do remember the days many years ago when we used to sit there licking thousands of stamps or using a wet sponge. Not now. Give them to the kids, the self-adhesive, stick them on, give them a backhand, and you don't want to be doing all that, and then get them to the post office. You're looking like, look of recognition. Yes, indeed.
The post office will do it for you if you've got so many thousands as well.
They will. Unfortunately, the bad news is, initially, yeah, once you're making, once you've put those few steps into place, we said yesterday, and you've got money coming in, which you're going to reinvest in these other levels, fine. But initially, they will charge you an additional 20%. So if you buy 1,000 stamps, which is going to be large letter stamps these days, unfortunately, because it's A4, which means the minimum cost is going to be 44 pence. 1,000 of them is 440 quid. We're going to charge an extra 20% on top of that, which is another 88 quid. Now, I've always found that teenagers will stick all the bastards on for a 20 quid backhander, thus saving yourself 60 odd quid. Look after the pounds, and the pennies will look after themselves. Oh, you're getting it cheaper than that, are you, sir? Tremendous. You slave labour driver.
Yes.
But, you know, if you've not got kids, you don't want to abduct one. Once you've gone through this bit and you've got money coming in off that, then fine, pay the extra 20% in terms of just taking them to the post office. They go to the printers, your master copy goes on CD-ROM to the printers, gets delivered back to you, printed, collated, folded, stapled, stuffed in the envelope, which is self-sealed, it's already sealed. You're just going to get the self-adhesive labels on, take them to the post office, and if you pay the extra 20% fine, they'll put all the stamps on. You want to be doing as little as possible. That's what we were talking about yesterday. It's not just about how much money you're making, it's about how much freedom and quality of life you've got, time to actually enjoy the money you're making. Otherwise, what's the point? So, your sales letter wants to be targeted to your niche market. Everything we said yesterday applies in terms of sales letters. It's just the same, it's basically the exact same formula in terms of attention, interest, desire, action. The only thing I would say regarding sales letters in terms of what you're sending through the post is, although this does you know, tie in with the websites themselves as well, is that for an initial, shall we say, low value product, and low value I'm talking in terms of less than £100, your sales letter, you don't get away with anything really 6 to 12 pages. A4. Now don't worry, that sounds like a lot of text, but you're going to use big bold print, sort of 16 points, so it stands out, it's very easy to read. You're going to break this up with photographs, so it's visually stimulating. As we talked about yesterday, the photographs also giving the perceived perception of endorsing the product more. Examples of which are on the already made websites that are on the CD-ROM that you'll take away with you. When you then do the next stage, which we'll come into here in a moment, these sales letters will get bigger. So they will be anywhere, you know, if you're going into the few £100 mark for the product cost to the potential customer, they kind of go from 12 to 24 pages, A4. Now, believe it or not, this goes against a lot of what so-called salespeople say, right? But long copy always sells better in terms of sales letters. As long as you can get their attention with the headline, their interest with the sub-headline, like we talked about yesterday, and then the body of the text is all benefits, what it's going to do for them, how it's going to make them feel. You know, the fucked up example we were giving yesterday of the ninja death secrets? You know, as long as they're sat there reading that feeling, yes, I am going to be a ninja, all the way through. When you run out of being able to say things that make them feel that way, then you've done your sales letter. And if it doesn't seem to be long enough, that's where you want to be putting more pictures in to make it more visual, stand out, because then it looks like they're getting something, you know, really informative. There's also that psychological angle to this. They're getting something informative. It doesn't actually look like a sales letter initially because you've targeted it to a niche market. The way the headline is, it seems informative. So, you know, one of these nutters, taking yesterday's example, envelope comes through. He's already used to getting stuff similar to that, evidently, otherwise he wouldn't be on a mailing list. Right? So opens it. Wait, what's this? Ninja Death Secrets? And then whatever the subheading was. I'm sure you made notes yesterday. Oh yeah, right. Better put that safe. I'll read it when I get back from work. And this, you've got, your job is a million times easier because it's landing on the doorstep of somebody that actually is already read or interested in that particular thing. As a general rule of thumb, do not send your mail out towards the weekend. You do not want it arriving on a Monday. The Monday morning blues. Too many bills arrive on a Monday anyway. So just avoid that day in general. Right, so yesterday, did it make sense in terms of the fact, did it make sense regards that your website, whatever that will be wording wise, is essentially the same as your sales letter? Yeah. Same here, even when you send sales letters out, okay, directly to people when you bought a mailing list, you can have a website up still, which is essentially the same sales letter. It's just the only difference is it would have buy it now buttons regularly throughout the text where they could click and buy it now for those people that choose to buy online. But more importantly, this is where you're going to want credit card facilities. You don't want to be answering the phone all the time to nutters, especially not if you're selling something like Ninja Death Secrets. You know, you can have some right weirdos, trust me. But you get yourself a free phone number. Remember I said free phone number because you know this is going to a targeted audience of people. The length of your sales letter is such that you're answering all the potential questions that they're going to have anyway. Towards the end of the sales letter, you're pointing out order within so many days and get this free, this free, this free, and whatever other so-called bonuses you want to lump in. So now they've got to pay you. That's the most important bit, of course. So they've got a choice. They can send you money through the post. Obviously, you're going to make that easy for them because there will be an order form in there where they can just tick, yes, I want this, and write on their credit card or debit card details. Or tick, find enclosed cheque, postal order, cash, or whatever other payment method. Now, in terms of accepting credit cards through the post or over the telephone, so if they ring you on the 0800 number, they'll get an answer message. Thank you for calling the Ninja Death Secrets hotline. Please leave your credit card number, expiry date, and all the other bollocks that they have to leave after the tone, and we will rush your amazing package to you. You know, so you don't have to answer the phone. You don't want to be doing that. You want to do as little as possible, for as much as possible, as quickly as possible, as easily as possible. That's why a free phone number does it. More people, it's sad. I mean, it's for the sake of probably 10, 20 pence phone call, but more people will ring up and order when there's a free phone number involved. Now, in terms of taking the credit cards, WorldPay, WORLDPAY, worldpay.com. It's a bit of a ball ache to set up because you've got to go to your bank and you've got to get proof and you've got to fill in all these bloody forms. It tells you what to do on the site. But it is worth it in so much as, when you set it up, it's for website use it's intended for. So you've got to have a website up. But at the same time, you pay the setup fee, which is around, what was it when we set up? 200 quid extra, is it, for the telephone line? £200 extra, and that means that's a one-off fee. That you can accept credit cards over the telephone or mail order, because if they come through mail order, the details, you just go online, tap them in, and it tells you whether the card's been declined, accepted, or whatever. Yes, they will charge you a percentage of each sale, just as in the same way as PayPal do, because obviously that's how they make the money. But it's about the easiest way of getting credit card merchant facilities, if you haven't already got a business account with the bank. If you already had a business account for a couple of 3 years, then you could perhaps get a transaction terminal from your bank, but believe me, that's a right bloody ball ache as well. So in terms of making it easy and quick, worldpay.com for mail order.
You also have used their systems like WorldPay, but you can use something called ProTax, which is only £20 a month, and they actually charge you like,
what's that? How are you spelling it? PROTX.com. I've never come across them, to be honest. Never come across them, to be honest. Yeah, but no. But PayPal, somebody can't ring you and give their credit card details to transact through PayPal. Since when?
There's the ability, if the person hasn't got a PayPal account, to ring you up and give look.
They just have to pay you through an email address. You can pay anybody in the world through PayPal.
No. They have to pay you through an email address. Yes, correct. But it has to come from their email address, their PayPal account. They can't ring you up, give you their credit card details, and then you go online and get money off them.
Business account, yeah. The Premier, I think,
yeah. Well, if there is, neither me or Mr. Hill know about it, and we both have business and Premier accounts. I think you might be getting that slightly wrong. I would double check, because I think you'll find you cannot accept credit cards over the telephone from somebody else. The only way you could do that is if they had a PayPal account themselves, and if they gave you their username and password to get into it, which people wouldn't really be doing.
They don't need to have a PayPal account, but they have to
They have to do it through
they have to do it,
PayPal
they have to
to
do
you.
it through PayPal.
Yeah.
So they can do it either online or you can email them. But I think you're right. I don't think you can take it over the phone.
No. WorldPay, we searched around, believe me, and WorldPay.com. I mean, I've never heard of this other company, but WorldPay certainly are the ones that we use in terms of telephone orders. But all of them have one thing in common: they will charge you a percentage, which is variable on how big the amount is. But it is only a small, relatively small amount in terms of the types of products we're going to be selling. And ultimately, like we said about tax yesterday, the more you're getting charged by them, don't look at it negatively, the more money it means you're making. Make it positive, keep yourself programmed positive. So you want to make it easy for them to part with money, hence being able to accept cards over the phone, or them just being able to fill out the details on the order form, which when they come to you, you go on worldpay.com, tap them in, it'll tell you if the card's been declined or accepted. Don't think I need to state the obvious, but I will anyway. Obviously, if it's not accepted, you don't send them the product.
Do you know how we can get a UK free phone number if we're not in the UK?
Skype.com. No, actually, no, Skype's slightly different. But, well, yes, this gentleman here will tell you about stuff like that after.
Yeah.
But you've reminded me of another thing. If you are doing, let's say you were doing a sales letter for a product. This is going off on one, but everything links together. You might not actually want a free phone number for certain products. Most products you'll want it because it'll increase telephone calls. But let's just say you were selling a very, very expensive, say, £1,000 or £2,977 set of 10 DVDs. The sales blurb's very powerful. Just perhaps you might consider the idea of these being sent not from England to people in England, but from a different country. And finding yourself a fulfillment house, go on the internet, the printers there will print them, stuff the envelope, send them out. Obviously you're going to have to pay them for this. But then when they land on the people's doormat, they've got foreign stamp on, foreign postmark, and if it was something like a marketing sort of sales thing where there's a perception of Americans being gurus in this, then it might, to the targeted mailing list that you've got, who you know are into that sort of stuff, look better if it arrived, it's come all the way from America and it's got an American stamp on. In which case you'd want them to keep that credibility, to be ringing an American telephone number to leave their credit card details, or a telephone number relevant to whatever country they obviously perceive that they've received this information from. Okay? Which with certain products could add that extra level of perception in terms of perceived value. In which case you can get telephone numbers for countries. One of the ways, I mean all of them ultimately you pay for. There's no escaping that. It's a case of finding what's right for you. But one of the ways is Skype.com. SKYPE. So you can actually, and you know, as therapist, with the work you do as therapist, you can get yourself a Harley Street area of London telephone number, buy it, put it on all your stuff saying you work on Harley Street, and when they ring it, it just redirects to you. They assume they're ringing you on Harley Street, perception-wise. Or in terms of this, it's got a Las Vegas, Nevada telephone number on it, that if they went on the net and checked out, it comes up, this is Las Vegas, Nevada, this is where I'm ringing to order the stuff. They look at the envelope, it says Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's like, learn the secrets of the casino pros. You know, I'm thinking, well, you know, if you've got a targeted mailing list for gamblers and it's coming from Las Vegas, the stamp ties in with it, the blurb does, the telephone number does, you know, that would be relevant to a product of that nature in terms of increasing the perceived value and credibility of it, because, let's face it, it's the gambling capital of the world. So it's all about you using your common sense, a bit of thought, planning things out, but there's various different options available to you. But the bottom line is make it as easy as possible for them to pay. Right, your next step, as I said yesterday, you don't have to do them in that order. It's just a suggestion to get money in. That costs you nothing to set up, that costs you nothing. The classified ads is a very small investment. Media publicity is next to no investment, that's why we'll cover it a bit more again later. Sales letters, yeah, you are going to be putting money in. And in terms of that, you're probably going to be talking in the region of £800 for every 1,000 you send out. There's 44 pence for each stamp, 1,000 to 440 quid. Your names are going to be anywhere from 10 pence to maybe 25 pence, depending on what niche area it is, but we'll say that's another 250 quid. That's 4, 5, 6, 700 quid. For your printing, as long as you're having quite a lot done at once, it's going to work out about 100 quid for the 1,000. Because you're not just going to have 1,000 printed at once, you're going to commit to having maybe 5,000 printed, but then just send them out in bits as the money's coming in. So yeah, there is a bit more of an outlay at this level. This is, you know, more like your 60, 70, 80 quid investment to get a return, but this is, you're going to be forking out in the region of £1,000 to start off with. And obviously you want to be doing more than just 1,000, because the more you send out, the more return you will get. But your next step, your next level from that, why is the mailing list so important? Well, the mailing list is important for 2 reasons. One, what you are buying, because you've narrowed it down, is totally niche, totally right. You know these people are bought before, it's the hot leads, as we call them. You're only allowed to rent that list for one-time usage. But when somebody buys something off you, that becomes your name. Now by that what I mean is, you've hired this mailing list, you can only mail to them once. Now in an ideal world, every one of them would buy something off you. That ain't going to happen, by the way, because a couple of those names are the mailing list brokers to make sure that you don't mail shop them again. So that's never going to happen. But the more of them that buy, then over here, you've got a record, a database of everyone that's bought stuff off you. These now legally you are allowed to mail shot again without having to pay anything to the mailing list company. So building up your list of people that you know have bought from you, and as we said yesterday, the more they bought from you and been happy with the product, the more likely they are to part with bigger sums of cash, which is where this is all heading. You're actually doing this, you're going to need to go and register with the data protection. So that's DATA protection.gov.uk. And if you're keeping people's details on file, you do have a legal obligation to be registered with the data protection registrar. So, you know, no good start making money and then you've not put something in place and somebody sues you for it all. Kind of defeats the object when you're trying to work that 3 to 5 year plan that we were talking about yesterday.
Is registration with them free?
It used to be, now you have to pay. What would that be? Can I delegate? What would it be roughly, Mr. Hill? Do you recall? We registered like...
About £80 I think last time.
About 80 quid.
Because there was a scam running when it used to, when it was definitely free.
Oh yeah, people were charging to register you when it was free and they'd just go online and do it for you. But if you go to that site, that is definitely the government data protection site, dataprotection.gov.uk. Yes, they will charge you, but that is definitely going to the right place and you will be legally registered, which is the key thing. So you're going to want some sort of database on your computer, okay, to keep these names and addresses. It's up to you if you're already computer literate, Excel, things like that. If you're not, I hate to admit this, but, you know, until recently when I delegated a few years ago and said, hey, you deal with all that, I used to just literally keep all the order forms. What a ball ache it was, but when it came to doing mail shots, go through the order forms and write the names and addresses from the order forms onto self-adhesive labels in sheets that you get from Staples. But then, photocopy them, so that then the self-adhesive labels could be used for that mail shot, but for next time, I'd already have this A4 sheet of paper which has got them in the correct place written so that that can be put on top of the photocopier and your labels can be put, the blank ones, into the drawer, so next set of mailing list. It's a bit of a ball ache, but that was the idiot's way of doing it when I wasn't particularly computer literate. Or you can just delegate and get somebody like Pete to do it for you. But I mean, you know, things like Excel are not exactly rocket science. For that matter, you could just store them in Microsoft Word if you get a template, which you can label templates. You can download for free off the net. It'll already be laid out where you can type them in. They just like typing. If you can type, you can keep a database. Right, what is the next step then? Well, part of it is building that list up. So your first product, whether it is being offered on a newsgroup, whether it's on one of these video sites, whether it's from a classified ad that leads them to ring you for your sales letter or look at the website, whether it's for a media publicity stunt, although the media publicity stunt can also be used for high value articles, as we'll cover later in the day. But any of these, including your sales letter for that matter, in general, you don't really want to, in the first instance, be hitting people for anything less than 100 quid. Fine. I wouldn't be going over the 100 quid mark to start off with, unless you'd found something that was like, you just knew that this was like, I don't know, it ain't ever going to happen, it very rarely happens, but if if Bruce Lee suddenly got resurrected from the dead and walked up to you and said, NinjaDeathSecrets.com, well, one of you's got it, and said, I'll tell you what it is, I'll do one seminar before I get killed again, and only you can promote it, then you might possibly think about doing a mail shot to a targeted niche market for a massive priced item, which it would be. But products or opportunities like that don't come along very often. But I hope you see the point I'm making. Some things are, well, they're never ever going to be able to get this from anywhere else. What we're talking about, the easy way to make money, the lazy way to make money, is selling and sourcing products that, if we're honest, they could get from somewhere else. If we're honest about it, most of them they could get for fucking free if they spent several hours trawling the internet. Alright, they won't come in the same fancy covers as we're going to present them in. They'll probably be under a different name because we've rebranded them. And they'd have to get them from 5 or 6 different sources, as we'll talk about later in the day, which is what you'll have bothered to do. That's why you deserve to not rip them off. Give them quality information at the easiest way possible for them at a price they're prepared to pay. So you want to keep it relatively low, so you're increasing your initial number of sales, because then you're building up your list. This does 2 things. Number 1, it gives you more chance of making money with level 6 of the system. But number 2, when you've got a few thousand names here who bought your Ninja Death Secrets product, or a few thousand names here that have bought, the Practical Guide to Chinese Cookery or whatever, you've then got a targeted mailing list of your own that you can keep using for future related products. Okay? But also you can go to one of these mailing list companies and say, I've got X thousand number of names, in the past so many months they bought this at this value. Give them all the information that we spoke about before that you'll be asking for before you buy a mailing list. And they will rent out your list for you to other people and be charging them 10, 15, 20 pence a name for a one-time usage, which they will just take an agent's commission from for the sourcing you the people who want it, and then you'll get a cheque at the end of the month into your bank account. So you're making additional money from your mailing list, and you're not doing any hard work. You're doing naff all, but you're making more money. And I always like making money for doing nothing. That's kind of works with this. So number 6, what is step 6? Well, this is where we start to get into the decent money. But there again, I suppose that's all relative to what your perception of decent money is. Because if you do a mail shot and you keep sending out 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a week, and it's a targeted mailing list, your sales letter's good, you put it together using the rules of attention, interest, desire, action, and despite conventional sales wisdom which says from a mailing list you would normally get anywhere from 0.5% to 2.5%, 3% tops response rate, that's just a general mailing. If you've got a niche market, you're targeting them directly, you've worded it in ways that fit in with the way they speak because you've done your research, all the stuff we talked about yesterday, so it feels personal to them, pushes the emotional triggers inside them, then you should be looking more in the region of 7 to 10%. Sometimes you could even get as high as 15%, but you want to be thinking in the region of 7 to 10% response rate that you should be getting. Which is why what we spoke about yesterday, you know, with the classified ad version, if 2 or 3 sales cover the cost of your classified ad, it's a risk that's on your side. Same with doing a mailing for something. If you only need, on a percentage scale, maybe 2 or 3% response rate to break even, and anything above that would bring you into profit, then this is a good risk. And that also helps you determine how to price your product. But the less you need to sell to break even on the first step, the better it is for you. Because as long as you break even, all right, you may not be making any money as such there. Don't worry. But you're not losing any money. Because it's step 6 where you're going to make the massive money from. As long as you break even with that first sales letter, if you're doing the mail order approach, so it doesn't cost you anything other than a bit of time, which admittedly is the most valuable thing of all, but once your sales letter's put together, how much time is actually involved? Send it to the printers with the money. They do all the printing, collating, stapling, stuffing, sealing the envelopes. The mailing list company, you just order your mailing list. Well, sorry, that doesn't take long, and most of them you can do it online. We might have done 10 minutes work, if that, so far. The mailing list arrives. You're obviously going to delegate that to one of the kids or the neighbour's kids, and give them a backhander, because you know that's probably going to take them, stick all the labels on, it's probably going to take them 4 or 5 hours. Oh, the way kids go, it's probably going to take them 6 or 7 hours, but hey, that's slave labour for you, isn't it? So you're not having to do that. You've got to take them to the post office. Well, put it all together, you probably actually are going to have done 15, 20 minutes work to get to the point where the orders start coming in. Yeah, there will be a bit of work involved in terms of fulfilling the orders, if you choose, although we can, that's the point. There are ways around doing any of that work as well, which we'll cover later in the day. So you can almost set this up on autopilot, whereby half an hour's work, they do all the printing, they do all the stuffing, over here stamps them and flipping labels them, and then when the orders come in, somebody else produces the product and sends them out, and all you're really doing is acting as keeping your eyes open, making sure everyone does what they're supposed to do, and looking at the money building up in your bank. Sounds a lot smarter to me than selling, what was it, 18 million donuts to get anywhere close to your 3 to 5 year plan. No, don't think so. This is where you're going to make the money, right? Because you've now got a list of your own, a list of people that have bought stuff off you, a list of people who, when they got their product from you, not only did it have all the stuff on it that it said in your sales letter or on your website, so you've kept to your promise, but it also had additional information on there that you never mentioned. So they feel like, we said yesterday, oh, I got real good value for money here. So they're going to feel good when no more than 2 weeks later, after them having purchased this front-end product, you will then mail shop them again. Only this time, it's going to be for a product that costs a hell of a lot more money. So, in the example of Ninja Death Secrets, let's say level 1, in terms of selling it, mail order, the thing's landed on the doorstep, they signed up, they may end up buying the CD with the various books on, and you might have decided, you know, order within 7 days and you're going to get this audio CD with it that you've sourced from a different source. Talk about finding other products later. So that it looks like they're getting 2 or 3 discs. You know, an extra 40 pence worth of CD-ROMs, but the perceived value of what they're getting when they look at the little photograph of these 3 fancy-looking discs in the box with a cover saying Ninja Death Secrets with a graphic on, it's like, this is worth it. So let's say that was going out at 47 quid. Personally, I'd actually charge less than that, because you want a higher conversion rate, because you want the names for your mailing list so that you've got more names to target for this step 6. But we'll just say 47 quid. So you come to step 6, and obviously you need to have this second product in place before you do step 5, because you want to be contacting them no more than 2 weeks after they bought it. So what could you then sell these people that have bought the Ninja Death Secrets, CD-ROM and audio as a back-end product? That's what we call a back-end product. We're going back to them and offering them something that's dearer, but with a perceived much higher value. They've already got trust in us, we delivered on time, it kept to what they said. I don't know, brainstorm. What ties in with self-defence? This is where you have to use your mind and common sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be directly relevant, but I'm guessing your self-defence is to do with what? Strength, fitness, pardon? Diet, yeah, reactions, speed and things like that. Fighting, you might get hurt, so pain. Might be, you know, you could perhaps, because you're going to create your own sort of product package here. So one of the dishes you could put together would be pain control. Call it, I don't know, pain control for fighters. So you feel no pain. One of them could be a mind programming disc. A hypnosis mind programming disc. Become an Iron Man. Super strong. One could be, you know, I don't know, some sort of bloody diet and fitness ebook that you've sourced with an audio CD, which funnily enough there's them on the CD-ROM you take away with you, so this becomes ridiculously easy for you to set up. Which you just rebrand and give a different name along the lines of Diet Secrets, the World Champion Martial Artists. You know, so it's relevant to that niche market. I think by now, by the look of your nods of your head, you actually really are starting to see where this is all coming together and where it's going. It is as simple as what we were saying yesterday. But you're going to want to make this perhaps a 10-disc set. Not necessarily 10, it might be 6, but I like 10. Ideally, some of them would be DVDs. But you don't when it comes to the sales blurb for this, you're not actually going to refer to it as, oh, this is a 10-disc set that just happens to be like 2 DVDs, 6 audio CDs and 2 CD-ROMs. The way you're going to put it across is so people get the perception they are buying a 10-disc set, including hours of DVD footage. What does hours mean? Well, as long as it's more than 120 minutes, which is 2 hours, then you've got hours of DVD footage. It's the perception, the perceived value, that's the important thing in all this. And when you do your pictures for the advertising blurb for stuff like this, your photos you can get from where we said yesterday, but do not book, no, it's a bit of a naughty one this, but you book them all in separate, can I just hold that one as an example? You're going to put them in boxes like so. So each separate disc is going to be in a box with a cover like that. And you're going to have 10 of them, saying this one, this 2, through to 10, which you photograph. And that's one of the images that goes on your sales letter. So they perceive that they're going to get a big parcel through the post like this. It increases the perceived value, but underneath it is a little asterisk that says, packaging may vary. Because what they'll get through the post is a nice slimline case like that, that's got a compartment for all 10 discs, which cuts down your production costs dramatically because you're just buying one 10-way case instead of 10 separate one-way cases, and only one cover to print as well, so there's less ink. You know, it's all relative. It's not just what you make, the less you spend, and less time involved as well.
You buy the 10-way boxes?
Well, we get most of... I don't deal with that. Where do you get most of your boxes? CDs, DVDs and all that sort of raw material
A
supply?
wholesale company in Barnsley, warehouse.
Called
The website is wholesale-media.com.
wholesale-media.com.
What's the minimum order quantity?
You see, being the lazy person I am these days, I've delegated.
I say 45.
£100 minimum order.
Sorry?
£100 minimum order.
But you know, initially, if you don't want to fork out £100 straight away, you can go to places, you'll pay more for them on a buying them one at a time basis, but you can buy these things from places like Staples and local computer stores. Yes, you'll pay more for them, but in terms of what we were saying, you can start doing this without having to lay out loads of money. Obviously, it makes logical sense when you're selling a bit of product, and if you've got 3 or 4 different products being marketed to different niche markets, then obviously you're going to get through quite a lot of boxes, because they're going to be being used at, the only difference is going to be the cover or what goes inside. So yeah, if you start buying in semi-bulk, the more you buy, the cheaper it is, the more profit you're making. Again, it's not rocket science. That's the trouble with this system. It's so fucking simple, but that's why more people aren't doing it, because it seems too simple. Right, so you're going to put together this massive looking 10 disc set. Might be a 6 disc set. You've got 10, 6, whatever, it's all relative. But the more it looks like they're getting for the money, the better, the higher the perceived value. And obviously then you're going to throw in 1 or 2 bonuses, which in this case might possibly even go to the extent of them getting a several 100-page printed book. A proper printed paperback or hardback book with it, which you can, as an additional selling point, say is unavailable to buy anywhere else, because that's given the rarity factor. And in terms of the books, because you don't want to be printing loads of bloody stuff out on your computer, you don't want a garage full of product there that may or may not go. In terms of books, and this is going off on a tangent, but it's something I've done, if you go to www.diggorypress, D-I-G-G-O-R-Y, press, P-R-E-S-s.com, they are my publishers, and can quite easily be yours. Now you're thinking, hang on, but I've not written a book. Well, I have, but some of you will be thinking, you've not written a book. Well, that's fine. You just source a publication, or a couple of publications, that are in the public domain, that are out of copyright, like we spoke about yesterday. As long as you write a new foreword for that and rebrand it with a different name, you are legally allowed to republish that. An example is you are allowed, if you put a new foreword, would you believe the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill? That is in the public domain now. Any of you can take that book, have it republished as long as you have it, and put your name on it as the author, as long as you put a new foreword in it. Do check that with your own lawyers if you so wish. I don't accept responsibility for advice, but I will tell you that is definite guaranteed fact. It actually tells you on the Copyright Office's website. They've got a section on public domain, the government and then the American Patent Office, and it gives you a list of some of the books that you wouldn't believe are actually in the public domain.
Which website?
Patent, oh bloody hell, .us. Is it .us or .com? Just put Patent Office in for America, and they have a section with a link for public domain copyright information. Or just type it in your search window. Speech marks, public domain, speech marks, and then copyright free. And you'll find loads of sites in the top 10 that give you all the legal lowdown and quote all the relevant copyright laws. So you might then cannibalise a bit from this copyright-free book, a bit from this copyright-free book, which quite often you can source in digital format, because it's already been typed up for you, so there's no long work involved. But some of that, with some of that, with some of that, and end up with a nice 500-page book, which no one else is going to have, because you rebranded it, given it a different name, and you've never had to write anything, that is, because of the title you put on it, relevant to this massive package. and you go to degreepress.com, and for less than £200, unless of course there's loads and loads of photographs in the text, you want this to be text rich. Black and white drawing's fine, but photographs obviously they're going to pay, you pay more for that to be published because of the print run cost. But for less than 200 quid, a prime example is one of my own books as an example. Now, that's one of my books, Confessions of a Hypnotist, okay? You go anywhere on the internet, you can find that in every online bookstore. You can go in WH Smith's, Waterstones, in fact you can go in any bookshop around the world, order that by name or ISBN number, and within 48 hours they've got it there for you. Similarly, in fact identically, for that just less than 200 quid setup fee, and that's all it cost, it was less than 200 quid to have this put into print. They will take your CD-ROM with the text on and lay it out correctly. They will put the headers on. They will put the page numbers on. They will lay it all out so it looks like a book. They will design the cover for you, included in that price. Yeah? They will get you your ISBN number for you within that price. They will print you your first copy of the book within that price, which you get to look at, that's yours to keep, right? They will also send copies of your book to all the people that need it, like the British Library, Cataloguing Library, Cambridge, Oxford University, all the things that are relevant to the Copyrights, Designs and Patents Act 1988, so that your book is then legally in print, copyrighted, and the irony of it is then, as that text, nobody else can copy it because that is your copyright. Yet it started off with stuff that was in the public domain. This didn't, this I wrote. As those of you who read will know, in my own inimitable style, I'm on about the products you're going to create, okay? So you then got an impressive looking book, and I would suggest in terms of a mega package like this that it does end up looking somewhere as thick as that. But you know, if in doubt, if you need something to take up more room, make the font size bigger so the text is bigger. It's not rocket science. But perception-wise, if this is something they can't get anywhere else, or rather they can get somewhere else, because this is the beauty. You set your own selling price for this when you send the stuff to Degree Press. Now I chose this to go on sale at $19.99, which is incredibly bloody cheap for the information that's in there, although we'll probably do you them slightly cheaper over the weekend, as a lead generation system, because in the back also the last few pages are adverts for DVD sets. So that's like the front end. In the same way as the sales letter is getting you your front-end leads, this is a way of lead generating to sell my other higher-priced products. But in terms of what we're talking about here, your step 6, selling them a big package of stuff, I'd suggest that something like that you'd set the price on it at something fucking ridiculous, like 97 quid. Because then it'll be on degreepress.com site at 97 quid. But they will also include it in that £200 setup fee. Register it with every worldwide book catalogue so that people can go in any bookstore and order this book and buy it for 97 quid, and it'll be delivered to them within X number of days or hours. It will also get registered with Amazon.com, Waterstones online, WH Smith's online. Every internet book retailer, your book within a couple of weeks will be up there. So this Ninja Death Secrets, the ultimate advanced level training course, 97 quid, all your blurbs up there, published by ninjadeathsecrets.com. And because you write the text for the advert that you give to Degree Press, and they use that word for word. So here's the scary thing. That means that then, on Amazon.com and all these places, and they've done all the hard work for you, right, is a web link to your site selling this massive package. Free advertising on sites that get massive, massive, massive fucking loads of hits. And they're spending all the money on the advertising. If you look at Amazon.com at this, you'll see that in the blurb, anywhere that this is advertised in the blurb, it says published by hypnotherapycourse.net. So I'm getting free advertising on all these massive traffic sites. That's the intelligent way of advertising on the internet. But it gets better, because on all these sites they've got a perception of being credible. Okay, you've already got a high street name. They're seeing this item on sale at 97 quid. The fucked up thing is that with that there long enough, because it'll get found in all the search engines, you will end up finding, you'll go to the bank one day at the end of the month, think, where's that money come from? And then you'll notice, oh, payment from Degree Press, royalties. Because you don't have to deal with any. They sell them all, the orders go to them, they print them on demand, they ship them to Amazon, it all goes out, you never have to do any work again, and the money ends up in your bank.
They do all the printing.
They do all the fucking work. You just write the thing, send it but they only ever print the first, say, 7 copies, 6 that have to go out to cover the copyright laws, and 1 that you get to see what it looks like. The rest are printed on demand. But if you rang up today and ordered, say, 100 copies of this, because you wanted 100, or in the case of Amazon, they might only want 1, they will not print that until they've been paid for it by Amazon. And ironically, that book there, within a matter of minutes, will have been printed by a massive digital, like a home computer printer, but a massive industrial one. And out comes your book. They print 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 100 at a time, however many's needed.
And how much extra do they charge you to do that? Nothing. They take their,
Right.
take their bit of your royalties.
Each book, you know how many, the more pages your book has got, the dearer it is to produce. An example. But this doesn't have to bother you, because at the end of the day, you're not putting the money out up front, you've just got the setup fee.
Yeah.
After that, you don't pay anything. They only produce the book when they've been paid for it by whoever, okay? They will then produce the book. In terms of this one, this costs about £6.30 a copy if I buy them 1 at a time. So anything above that, they take out a handling fee, I think if it's £1.50. The rest gets paid into my bank account. If I buy these direct myself, the more I buy, the cheaper they are. But even if I buy 100, they're only coming down to about £5.20 each. Which, as a lead generation thing, it's still a nice little profit. But in terms of flogging them at 97 quid a time, it's definitely worthwhile because of the perceived value of it. But they're doing all the work. It's the lazy man's way of doing it. This one, the sidekick book, it's got less pages. That's 513. This one's 233. That costs, if you're buying 1 at a time, costs us about £4.20, I think. Buy 100, it comes down to about £3.60. If you go on the site, all the figures are there. The point is, you don't have to be forking money out to have loads of stock there. In fact, you don't have to fork money out at all. Once you've set it up, that initial investment, you will have money being paid into your bank. And the crazy fucked up thing is, even if it's on all those sites at 97 quid, some daft bastards will buy it. They will. I kid you not, they will. But that's not what you're bothered about. That's not where you're going to make the big money from. The point is, that's going to be the free bonus they get if they respond within 7 days to this follow-up sales letter. And when it says this bonus, it obviously can say, if you don't believe us, go on Amazon.com and you'll see that this is £97, which they fucking will anywhere on the net because you're the one who set the price on it, you're the one who's publishing it. But inside the book you put a different name so it looks like you are giving them a £97 book as the free gift, whereas in truth it's cost you, if it was as many pages as my Black Hypno book, it's costing you about £6 to give them a perceived bonus worth £97. Which can make all the difference to them buying this package, which, the way you put it across, is that it's worth hundreds and hundreds of, to train with this ninja master on a one-to-one basis would cost you many thousands of pounds and would be practically impossible to achieve as he's so secretive about who he'll teach. But now, for one time only, we're able to offer you the opportunity to get this box of shite, this quality information, this quality quality information package, including secrets that the master has never revealed before. This is a one-time only. You know the bollocks. It's all pushing their buttons, making them feel good in their words. But that's an easy way of A, once it's set up, people will buy it. It's sad, but they will. Getting money going into your bank, royalties. And B, having an impressive looking, because you can put whatever name you want on the front of this book. There's no laws, but you can use pen names. So you could be Grandmaster Kikai Kwankwa, right? Has written this Ninja Death Secrets training course, hasn't he? You know, it ties in with the market, because these brainwash buggers are all, you know, I don't know if you spelt it a bit differently. You could even put The Hidden Files of Bruce Lee. It's relevant to that particular niche market. You've seen it in their magazine. This is the buttons that presses it right for them, that they want to spend money on. Depending on what, you know, use your common sense, the market, research the market, find what presses the buttons, then you've cracked it. So that's, but more importantly, it's a way of having a genuinely perceived high value thing. And if they check that out and see that that book is on Amazon in W.H. Smith's Waterstones at £97, well, bugger me. Then the other bit of the sales letter where it says that perhaps this DVD that you're giving them normally retails at £97. Alright, the fact that they're not able to find it anywhere else on the internet, they will just logically assume that it's a truthful statement because of how easily they found this item on sale, thus giving overall credibility to the sales letter and making the perceived value of the entire package seem more. So, what are we going to sell this at? Well, the more you, as much as fucking possible, really. But you've researched the market, remember, with your magazine, so you know what the market will stand, what competitors are doing. Don't be put off if other competitors are only charging, like, for a 10-disc set, maybe, you know, 100-odd quid, because obviously you're going to write your sales letter in such a manner that they can only get this information from you, and it's better than everyone else's. You know, sometimes charging more than the competitor is the way to get more sales, because then people perceive it must be better, that's why it's dearer. Don't fall into the trap of underselling the value of what it is you're selling. So in truth, what we're going to give them? Well, we're going to give them, perhaps in this case, the example we've just done. You're going to have to source these products, but we'll talk about sourcing products after lunch today, because that's really the only missing key to the system, and I've told you this bit. We'll say that you end up giving them 4 audio CDs, just for this example, 4 CD-ROMs, and 2 DVDs, which is making you 10 discs. What's the actual real production cost to you? Well, CD-ROMs you can get for less than 10p each, DVDs you can get for far less than 20p each. Initially you're going to be burning these yourself at home to keep costs down. If you start selling major fucking bulk law, then you'll use a fulfillment house to do all the work for you. And we'll talk about fulfillment houses this afternoon. But for now, getting going, taking action when you leave here this weekend, starting that dream, starting your plan, moving forward. You don't need to invest money initially until you're actually making money. So, right, 4 audio CDs, well, 4 blank CD-ROMs, 40p, ink on each, let's go up the top, 10p each, 80p, we'll put them in a plastic box, 10p, it's going to cost us at least, let's go over the top, let's say they're going to cost £1 each, they're not, I can tell you now you're going to make each one for less than that, but let's say that's £4. 4 of them are CD-ROMs with no audio on, but even let's say with a nice cover, £4. DVDs, let's say they're £1 each, £2. It's actually going to be less than that because remember, packaging may vary. So they're not all going to be in separate boxes. They're all going to be in one. So it's actually going to be cheaper. I'm just making the figures higher so you can see that even if it was costing you that, how much profit you can make out of this. So that would be a tenner. Maximum. A copy of that book from over here as the free bonus. £6. Costing you £16. It's got to go in some form of decent packaging. Let's say it costs you £4 for that. It's not going to do. It's going to cost you far less than that. But we're up to a mind-boggling £20. And this isn't £20 you've got to pay out until you've already had the money off the customer, remember. You're only paying out money when it's coming in, so there's never cash flow issues. That's the other beauty of this type of business. We're up to 20 quid. Oh, and postage. Well, it's going to be one book of about, in this example, this thickness, and a 10-way case, 10 discs. It's going to go for less than a tenner. Much less than a tenner. But we'll call it a tenner for this example. Your total outlay, maximum, is 30 quid. It's going to be far less than that, as you know from what we said yesterday, and the fact that your packaging may vary. But we'll go over the top and say it's going to cost you 30 quid. How much profit do you want to make? Do you want to make 30% on donuts? Or, you know, like we spoke about yesterday. Or, you know, 100% profit on that would be selling it at 60 quid, wouldn't it? Well, no, you know, if they've already parted with 47 quid up here, and we're making this the dog's bollocks set, and they're getting a £97 free gift, and perceptively they're getting DVDs they can't get anywhere else, that are worth hundreds of pounds, and training with the guru master who never does, you know, normally cost thousands, then the perceived value of this package is high, so do not undersell it. They can't get it anywhere else. You're going to be pushing their emotional buttons, attention, interest, desire, action, all the things we spoke about yesterday. They're going to be practically wanking themselves off at home to get their hands on this package. They want it so fucking bad, like they've never wanted anything before, so make them fucking pay for it. So, you know, I'd say either 177 or probably 197. 197 or 177 would be the retail price that I'd knock a package out like that for. 197, that's £167 profit on every sale. For, well, to burn those discs if you get a 3-way burner or something, we're talking minutes of work. You put the disc in, you put like 7 blanks underneath, you press the button, you go, you make yourself a brew, or get a glass of wine, you come back, they're burned. Disc 2, you go out, this is not hard work. This is not particularly time consuming until you start getting massive lots of orders. When you get massive lots of orders, you'll be bringing in so much money anyway, those sorts of profits, that you will start using a fulfillment house. Or, if you've got a friend you particularly trust and you want to improve their lifestyle, you'll start employing people. But not on a conventional basis. Don't start getting into the realms of bloody PAYE and all that crap. Just, I mean, do the job, you get paid. Simple as. Keep it simple. Life is not for worrying about. Do not cause yourself stress, worry or work. So you can see that this here is a very nice markup, thank you very much. And that's going over the top. It's going to cost you far less than that. And the more you're selling, the more you're going to be buying your boxes in bulk, the cheaper that production cost price is going to come down. But the beauty of it is, even at this level, where you're only going to pay out for stuff on an as and when you need it basis, so there's no cash flow problems, the profit margin, I think you'll agree on that. You know, I would go for the 197. Your profit margin's 160 quid a time. And here's the beauty. Because the perceived value of the package doesn't state it outright, but the perception is, yeah, the book's definitely worth 97 quid. There's DVDs, there's this master, he charges thousands for one-to-one training, and there's an audio CD in there. You know, for something like this, I'd probably even consider, I'd go to my local Chinese restaurant, and I'd say, do us a favour, what it is, I've written a bit of a mind programming CD, which is quite simple. You can get scripts, copyright free off the net. What I want you to do is just, it's a bit of an acting job. I'm going to give you a nice little backhander, and I want you to read this in your best, putting it on, Chinese voice you can. You just got to pretend your name's Master Quan Kang Sungdo, or whatever bloody name you're going to put on it, right? I get them to read the script so that there is a Chinese sounding voice delivering some information. Master, so secretive, no fucking knows who he is. That's how secretive this guy is, right? This is the, but you're going to use that bizarreness as your selling point. Yeah, no, it is a secret, nobody knows. Only the highest grandmasters have ever met him, you know? But that's the kind of stuff that's going in your sales letter, isn't it? Think about it. That's the kind of stuff that's going into the sales letter. That's what's going to get them to part with the money. The scarcity factor, the wanting it. That's what's going to push their emotional buttons. For the sake of tipping Mr. Wong down at the takeaway a ton or something to record this audio CD for you, or just make sure you go in a bit more often buying your takeaways from there, so then he'll think, right, keep customer happy. You're just adding a massive perceived value to your product, and more importantly, although the script will have been downloaded copyright free from the net or taken off the CD-ROM you take away, nobody else will have Master Ottobo, whatever his fucking name is when you've invented it, disc, and no one else will be allowed to because you own the copyright on that. So you've got no fear of competitors ever offering a similar package. You've got something unique, a unique selling proposition relevant to your particular niche market. And with a bit of common sense, that crazy screwed up, and you're getting the idea now the way I put things across, but you know, with a bit of common sense you can do that with practically any niche market. You know, you're bound to know somebody, or know somebody who knows somebody who's got the right voice or accent to, under whatever pen name, apparently be the expert on whatever niche package it is you're putting together. So for very low cost you end up with a very unique product for very little work. And this doesn't have to be done in a studio. This can be recorded on your computer at home, or it can be recorded on a flipping mini disc player, iPod, and then connected to computers, so it can be burned to disc. You don't need to be investing lots of money. That's the whole point about this. You're selling the information. It's what that information, what those secrets, power words, secrets, can do, can teach, will show them, enable them to achieve. That is what you're selling. You're selling a dream to people. With the Ninja Death Secrets package to the dream of being Mr. Bruce Lee, or something like that. You know, with some sort of marketing package over it, it's the idea that they're going to be rich. With some sort of, this is how you become a better actor and pass auditions type package. It's the dream of being rich and famous and idolised. You've got to climb inside these people's heads. What do they want? Because when they're reading the stuff, they'll be thinking, what's in it for me? Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Now, and remember, these people here that will get this sales letter are the ones who've already bought off you before. So the key thing of trust, credibility and customer service is already in place. So let's say at this point you've done your front end. Let's say at this point you've got 100 names of your own. Okay? 100 names and addresses of people who bought off you. Obviously, the more you work in the system, the more your list will get bigger. But this is a continuous, ongoing thing because you want to leave it no more than 2 weeks so that they remember your company name, and the product's still fresh in their head and they're fired up and their emotions are, yeah, this is brilliant. From that 100, originally off a targeted mailing list that you bought from elsewhere, you want to be getting 7 to 10% response rate. Otherwise, you need to be tweaking your sales letter. In terms of here, when they've already bought off you, you definitely want to be getting a 10% response rate, if not more. But definitely 10% because these people trust you. In which case, 10 sales. But remember, to send out 100 letters, or initially you wouldn't even need to get them done by a printer. You could, for the ball ache, for the first time, do it yourself at home. But 100 stamps and 44 pence, because you're doing it large letter, is £44, I do believe, off the top of my head, with envelopes, labels, talking about 50 quid. Well, let's say you're still bunging the kids 20 quid for sticking them all in and stuffing them. Bit of printing, talking about 100 quid investment, right? You only need to sell one of these packages, and you've got the cost of producing the package, the cost of the mail shop, and on this basis, you've still got 70 quid into profit from just getting one sale. 1%, you'd expect that if you pick names and addresses at random. This, it's gone from a targeted niche market list where you push their emotional buttons to people who've already bought off you and you've provided more than you said you would for the money. So they trust you. You get 10 of them, well the other 9 of them So let me try and do the maths here. 10 of them's 1970, of which the first one comes off, which is, just call it 217, bollocks, 17 cents. Give or take a few quid, £1,800 of that would end up being profit. Now I'm only using these as example figures. Your response rate should be much higher by this point because it's such a targeted red hot market. Your number that you're mailing to should be higher because you've been doing all the other avenues, news groups, this, that. You've built your list up more. It's all relative. It's a numbers game. The more you put in, the more you get out. Very quickly, before we have a brew break, is what they call in sales sometime the funnel principle. Up here at the top you've got your news groups where you're advertising for free, what we spoke about yesterday, or your videoing stuff, where you're selling, let's say, really cheap stuff at 20 quid. A little bit further down the funnel you've got your classified adverts that we spoke about, where perhaps you're selling stuff at 47. These two will kind of lump together. This is the top of the funnel, top of the tree. Of those, that's where you're building your list up from. You will also be making a profit out of it, no doubt, because your sales letter's good, your advert's good. You followed the rules we spoke about yesterday. But then you will go to that step that we just spoke about and offer them, in that example, perhaps something at, one. It doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter. The principle is, it could be 97 next, and then you might build the list up more, and then go down and offer those that bought something at 97, something for 147. So you build it, and then you only mail shot the ones who fork out this money. So the ones who spend 147 get sent an offer for something that's maybe, 197 or 297. And then you might go up to 997. And when you get here, this is when you start using things like password protected websites, which I'll talk about after lunch, which is other psychological ploys to get them to part with the big dosh. And so it can go on to where you get to the bottom of the funnel, and these people have parted with this. Actually then you can get them to part with anything, let's say £9,997. As I can tell you now, there is at least 2 or 3 of you in this room that within the next couple of weeks, when you receive the follow-up advertising package from my good self, which you will, okay, I pre-warn you, I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but some of you in this room will be parting with just short of £7,000 to me in cash. Thank you very much. In fact, probably quite a few of you will be when you see the sales letter. Because it will push all your emotional buttons. It will get your attention, or it will get your interest, it will create that desire inside, and it will make you want to take action. So start saving up. On a serious note though, it's not, this is why this is so profitable, because some of the people down here who spend 10k, and some of them will also have previously bought that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Because to get to the bottom of the funnel, you've only been mail-shotting those people that keep spending money, which is cutting down your mailing costs but increasing your profits. Is this making sense? It's the lifetime value of the customer. That is what makes this so profitable. Keeping them hooked, giving them more than they perceive they're going to get, even though what they're getting is essentially a few discs. It's not, it's the information on there, it's the perceived value, it's the way you present it. On that note, we're going to have a brew break. Can we cut it a little bit shorter today, and i.e., can we get back in here for 10 to 12, because then we've got a colleague of mine who's going to be telling you about another area of selling, which will become, well, it'll make sense after the break, and it'll make even more sense when we get into this afternoon and I'm talking about selling franchises and networking and stuff like that.